I love school, but school just didn't seem to love me. Why am I going up to the desk and showing my work and it was just all red marks? How could I be me? Because all of these things are telling me that I can't be me, because being black, there's a negativity. Being a woman, there's a class ceiling. And then being dyslexic, it's almost like I could breathe because somebody saw me and could see I was having some difficulties that I didn't even understand myself. And that's the thing, anything's possible.
One GCSE published author. I just wanted to start by saying a massive thank you for your support and for sharing your personal stories. The response has been amazing. Here's the plea. We're a charity. We want to reach millions of people and we need your help. The clicks, the likes, subscribes, downloads, shares, reviews, they make a huge difference. Now, our next guest brings over 3 decades of experience in education. Marcia Brissett-Bailey is an accomplished author, advocate, educator, and mother, regarded not only as a thought leader, but a guiding light for young dyslexics, empowering neurodivergents to discover and amplify their voices. Her book, Black, Brilliant and Dyslexic, features 25 diverse voices and their compelling stories. Marcia has written for Forbes and has been named top 50 influential neurodivergent women. I love chatting to Marcia. She's a true force for change and a real-life modern-day preacher. I know this episode's going to help so many people. Here we go. Let's see how great minds think differently. Thank you so much for coming, Marcia. It's amazing and a privilege to have you on here. And I want to start actually quite boldly, based on the conversation we were having before we started recording, by just acknowledging that I am a white male who had private education, inverted commas, privileged upbringing, and you are a black dyslexic woman.
Yeah.
And you grew up on a council estate.
I did.
And so we come from really different backgrounds. But what I love is that we're both neurodivergent, and we both want to be part of the solution and to make change.
100%.
And I wonder, just when you hear me say that, what you think.
When I hear you say that, I hear revolution, like, empowerment, enabling others to have their voice and be included. That's what I hear. I hear that because that's just been my journey. That's all I want, is for us to feel included. We're different, but with those differences, why can't we be together and find solutions and work together? But for whatever reason, there's systems that's not quite working, and we know it's not working. They feel very broken. They feel very 19th century and beyond. But we're the 21st century. How do we become part of that solution? Maybe it's not in my lifetime, but the point is, I want to still talk. We've got a next generation. We've got people who are growing, evolving. How do we do that? We've got a duty, I think.
Yeah, and look, we've both got kids, right? We're both part of hopefully bringing up and bringing through and nurturing and educating that next generation. Yeah. Can you just explain the word intersection and intersectionality?
Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, she is a lawyer and an activist, and she was working to support Black women in terms of inequality and pay gap. And what's happened, that word is evolved. So it's like having a cross junction. In America, they have the cross junctions, and it's that intersection.
Yeah, great analogy. Love that.
So the intersections for me, I can speak for me, is being, growing up, is race, being an intersection, then education, my environment, class. Those are some of the intersections that have given, they really can be complex because there's trauma in that as well. So that those complexities and those intersections, they're interwoven and layered in a way that sometimes I really have to dig deep to unpick them so I can be present and be me. Because sometimes I don't know if it's me, because those intersections and what society has told us, is it an illusion? But I've had to learn to believe that is what I see is really happening. So, I have being very much from a cultural perspective, growing up with Caribbean parents, very much part of the Windrush, come in here, my grandmother, to know that as a Black woman or as a girl, you have to work twice as hard. So that intersection of not knowing what that was, would you have to work twice as hard? What does that actually mean? And sooner or later, I started to discover for myself as a young Black girl that it's about my skin colour.
Do you remember how old you were?
I know it's primary school age. So there's this kind of preparation of building you up, building you to let you know that all is not well when you go out in the world. But I still was in my play mode.
In your innocence, yeah.
In innocence of, these are my friends. There's a moment of almost transition when you're going from being a teenager into adulthood. You get it, especially if you go into the workplace. You start to get it and see there's differences. And it's funny, is when I was doing sociology at college, I remember we did this triangle and it said not everybody can fit. So there's a hierarchy of, we've got certain people who were going to make it and not everybody can make this. So then that was another intersection, understanding that class came into this. So there's been so many intersections of reflection and trying to almost find me in that. So where was me? How could I be me? Because all of these things are telling me that I can't be me, because being Black, there's a negativity. Being a woman, there's a class ceiling. And then being dyslexic. Are you kidding me? That was how my diagnosis was. Are you kidding me? Like dyslexia on top of all of this stuff.
Is that how you felt at 16 when you were diagnosed?
100%. I was like, Black woman, dyslexic. What else? Is this really happening? I mean, I felt at the same time, I'm no longer stupid.
Okay.
So there was a whole combination of feelings, emotions, but I think embedded because of that cultural kind of influence, resilience and having hope, because now I know what the crux of this was. That I wasn't showing up for school the way I wanted to. I loved school, but school just didn't seem to love me. All of that started to make sense because I knew I was thinking. I knew I had a mind. So these intersections are really real, and it's a great time that we're talking about it, because we need to be talking about it in the school system. We need to be talking about it in the workplace so people can feel psychologically safe.
Now you've had 30 years in the education system, right? Which is incredible. You are an educator, right? And you want to teach and you want to inspire and you want to give back in that sense, which is amazing. What advice do you give to young people now?
I was a kind of a visionary as a careers advisor, because I always said that you don't know what jobs are going to be in the future. But I just say, do what you love, find passion. I know there's social and economical factors, but if you can find what you're passionate about and do that, it will take you a long way, because it's not guaranteed. You could do a biology degree, but, work in HR. Or you could do a biology degree and do graphics.
Yes.
But still, within that, some young people have always felt they've got to think about what's realistic, what's practical, and what's going to bring in the money.
Yes.
So we're always kind of, from a social, economical,
balance, isn't it?
It's a balance. It will come. But it can be difficult because of social and economical. Some people just don't feel they can do that, and others can. Like I would say, travel, find yourself, learn cultures, learn language, learn whatever brings you to feel peaceful and purposeful.
Marcia, let's talk about your mum, because I know from what I've learned, she was a huge role model for you.
Yeah.
And I know that you sadly lost her last year.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about your mother?
My mum is, she's an advocator. So let me not get tearful, but it is sometimes, my mum used to say, don't give me flowers when I'm gone. She will say all these very typical, sometimes Caribbean kind of sayings. And that's true. But in all of that, I think I've got her go-to motivational resilience. My mum's the person who you're on the bike and, you fall over, you get back on. And that teaches something internally as well as physically. My mum's the person, when I wasn't reading at 10, she went and knocked on that headmaster, and it was a headmaster at the time, knocked on the door. And those are the days you could just walk in the school, just walk in, you're owning things. And my mum had a voice. It felt like the drums were coming. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was a very quiet and internal child, very quiet. And then my mum would say, my daughter's not learning and we need to find out what it is. It was almost a relief, because I selectively muted at school for a period of time, because I felt that was the way I could keep myself safe, because I didn't want to read aloud. And my mum became my voice because there was bullying. When you're a little bit different, prefer to speak to adults, prefer to engage in my imagination, why is the sky blue, a bit of philosophy, critical thinking in my mind when maths just wasn't happening. And my mum was that kind of anchor of safety, even when I was cringing. But I see she was protecting me and she was trying to give me that chance that she didn't have, because what we know now, and I helped to get her diagnosed, is that she was dyslexic. Mm-hmm. And it's a different experience. We're not even going to go back to her time, but she wanted what she didn't have. And she would always call me her Marcy. So she wanted to give me that chance. And I really, and for both my parents, admired them. They never pressurized me to say, you've got to do this. Just do what you love. And I think that's what it comes from. Do what you love and we will support you. So there was a real learning, I think, of unconditional love. And Mum and I did have these conversations about self-care, self-worth, sort of later down the line, because it's almost like it was part of the training. And together, my mum and I explored that, her being a counsellor and really understand about trauma, generational traumas, because sometimes my mum was really upset about things but didn't know why. Yeah. And those are traumas that she was carrying, and it's intergenerational in a way.
Yeah, really special to have had that opportunity to do that with your mother.
Yeah.
Sounds really healing.
Healing for sure. But there was still more to discover, still unwrapping and unvolving. But that chapter is closed. That's hard, but at the same time, I know she's within me because I see myself and I think that's my mum. And so,
what kind of mum are you? How would your kids describe you?
I'm just like, who is the mum? Sometimes that's the thing. I think that, I don't know if it's my neurodiversity or whatever, but I'm ready to play. I'm ready to be that child, because I think you need to be childlike. Adults need to have fun. Yeah. And I don't think I was deprived from a childhood. I wouldn't say that. I played a lot. I played a lot in the estates. We played king ball, should I say, I don't even want to say knock down ginger, but I've said it now. But we played things what were hardcore, playing what kids should do. We played really hard. And I think a lot of my playfulness is from playing. Playing is so important. I think
so that comes out with your kids?
That comes out with my children. So I'm on an adventure all the time. Let's do this, let's do that. Come on, let's go there. So I'm that kind of parent. But I think even they're like, Mum, can we just have a break today? I do give them breaks, but I'm really about giving them opportunities to learn new things, to travel, to explore, to understand for themselves what things mean. So I'm doing my bit to try to evolve them to find their voice as well. So, And I think they're getting the voice bit.
Just going back to when you were younger and undiagnosed.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the selective mutism.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that?
Yeah, of course. So in my head, I thought if I don't speak or I don't say anything, then I'll be invisible. Okay. So in my head, I said to myself, I'm not going to read aloud because then no one's going to ask me anything and then I'm invisible. So how it really happened is there was anxiety in doing this. It wasn't like I felt like I had a choice. It was about survival. Mm-hmm. I can't say it was each day. I can't remember exactly, but we had reading times, reading corners and all these kind of things. So it was a dread. That's where I know trauma started. It was a dread feeling and it sunk inside my stomach. I wanted the ground to swallow me up kind of feeling. Because I wasn't taught really how to read. I didn't really understand phonics. But putting that aside, so go around thinking, is it going to be your turn? You feel relieved when the bell goes. And I just thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is not me. So I'm just not going to speak. And then no one will say anything. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I selectively muted. But for me, it was just making that choice. And it was more about trauma. But it was something that it
survival.
Yeah. So I was very quiet. And so sometimes people say, you speak really quiet or I speak really fast. It's so almost like I've got to find that balance now because it's either I quickly get it out or I say it very quietly so no one can hear. And so what I've had to learn is how to balance that speed control because I was trying to be quiet for so long that it's now become something that not is a challenge, but I've had to learn And I speak quite a lot, but I've had to learn to balance the speed of it because I'm either quiet or I'm low. So let's find a happy medium. So the selective mutism for me was a sense of trauma and anxiety and wanting to have invisibility.
That is a word. And how long?
Thank you.
And how long? And even if it isn't, who cares? It's a word now, as Marcia said it.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
It definitely lasted throughout it was 4th year. So that would be year 6 now.
Yeah, so 9, 10?
Yeah, 9, 10. Because this is when it was all happening because the pressure of standardized testing, being assessed.
Yes.
So I knew there was something in me, but it wasn't coming out on the paper.
Okay.
So that selective mute was really about that trauma piece, and the imposter syndrome came from that. The sabotage came from that.
Is that directly due to being dyslexic?
That's an interesting question. Dyslexia wasn't a thing for me at that point. So it was just about feeling different from my peers. I love school, but school just didn't seem to love me. Why am I going up to the desk and show my work and it was just all red marks? Didn't understand that. Nobody thought they could explain to me or give me a chance to understand what I was doing differently because I didn't know. I wasn't understanding. But one of the things that was really helpful to me is having understanding of my history. I went to Saturday school. It was a very big thing for lots of Black families to educate their children because they didn't feel the curriculum was supporting children. So I was one of those children who went to Saturday school, but we learned about history. So I think that really helped me as well to have an identity, understand there was more to being a Black young girl and there was a history behind just not talking about slavery. Like there was Black
much
people,
more context.
Yeah, there was more before slavery. There was, so that really helped me to be firm in myself and rooted as well.
I guess what I hear you saying is, yes, the dyslexia was part of me not wanting to speak up because of maybe feeling worried about what I was reading or my ability to read. But also I had all these other things on top,
the layers,
messages that I was absorbing
that
basically said, don't speak until you're spoken to. And if you are spoken to, just nice, quick and quiet.
Quietly, yeah. So
and move on.
Yeah, so there was difference. I just knew that I wasn't doing what my friends were doing, but I didn't know what that was. And it was only when I was 16 and my government politics teacher said, Marcia, you're so articulate in what you're saying. I know you know about status quo and the government and all of these things, but what's happening, it's not reflective on the paper. And for the first time, somebody actually recognised this because at school I got 1 GCSE and I was really trying. When that person, it was almost like it was a relief. It's almost like I could breathe because somebody saw me. It makes me quite tearful. Somebody saw me and could see I was having some difficulties that I didn't even understand myself because I was doing everything right as far as I could say. So that was a game changer, meeting the lady, Jenny McWhinney, who done a dyslexic assessment. And then from there, I had an educational psychologist report stating all of my spiky profile. Yeah, it was a game changer for me. With all of the kind of resilience, visibility of, empowerment of being a Black young girl, this kind of cemented everything because it made sense. So that was a game changer.
Thank you for sharing that. What do you think some of the myths are around dyslexia?
There was stigma attached to it. So if you can't do this piece of work in the school, then I don't want to say the words, but there were words that are associated with that.
What words? Say the words. We need to say the words.
Dunce was a word that, stupid, slow. Yeah, they were associated. And I was having those things because already when I was reading, I was stuttering. So people would call me stutterer and Mars bar. And it all became because it was all part of my thing. So, dyslexia and it doesn't define me is what I'm saying. And I've lost the question.
If somebody said to you, tomorrow tomorrow you're not dyslexic, would you take that or not?
No, I wouldn't take it. It's what's it's part of who I am. It's part of me thinking outside the box. The person who sees the building and have built it, put all the decorations in, and then everyone's going, but what is that, Marcia? Then I have to go back and sort of bring people with me because they're still on the foundations. I'm the person that doesn't read the instructions. I've built it. I've done it with loads of my children's toys. I've like built the thing, and it's like just by the visualization, because I visually visualize a lot of things.
I can tell with the analogies that you use.
So, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect at everything. And there's some things I know are not my strength.
Mm-hmm.
But once I own that and I accept that, then we can move forward. But not accepting me and thinking I'm just broken and not good enough. We're missing so much beautiful stuff that can really evolve into something beautiful.
Now, I know you've got a lot of thoughts on representation, and I know how important it is to you. So I just wondered if you could talk about what representation means to you.
People need to be healed. People need to feel belong. People need to feel understood. So we need to make connections. We need to have conversations with people and understand people's journey. And that is part of the representation, to be able to project that on what we see in the stories we tell, whether it's in films, whether it's in, a book. Because in school, and I'm hope my son doesn't mind me saying this, but he was talking to his teacher and he said that Columbus discovered America. My son said he didn't discover it. And for 2 weeks, there was a conversation. It was very uncomfortable. I was going to go to the school because that's about representation. For him, there was a different story. He understood because I had taught him that. I had taken him to schools and to learn about history that wasn't in the history book. So that is representation.
The other side of the story. We just need more balance, right? It just needs to be more real. More
real about, that we're here, we're existing, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't choose this as like, we're all, we're not all marginalised. And why is that?
Yeah.
Oppression's real. And
oppression is real.
Yeah. And so those are the questions, to go back to your question. It's about legacy work for me. It's not about me, it's about legacy.
I just wanted to read a review it's actually the latest review about your book.
Oh.
It was just a comment that someone made. What an amazing book. Such an inspirational read. I am not dyslexic, but to read others' experiences is so inspiring, and to how the difficulties have been overcome and dealt with. Well done. Kiss.
Wow.
What I loved about that review was that it was someone that is not dyslexic, because we at the Hidden 20% firmly believe that if we can shift the narrative for the 80%, then we will help the 20%.
Yeah. So for me, that is just refreshing. That's what I want. I want people to pick it up who are not just, curious, inquisitive, because we still need curiosity and understanding. That's what I mean about those connections. So for me, that warms my heart to hear that. But that's really what I want, because we're not getting it enough in our schools. It should be something that we talk about neurodiversity or dyslexia as something that's just normal. Mm-hmm. So if we can normalise it in those places, and really normalise in our workplace as conversations, training to our leadership, because if they've not had it within their process of growing up or understanding it as something that's a lack or something that's a defect, we need to have those conversations regular and often, and within training and getting experts or people like myself to come in and talk about those journeys. But we need a call for action. We don't want to just keep talking and feeling exhausted and feeling tired by sharing a story, because it is a lot sometimes sharing your stories and the traumas that you bring with that.
I mean, you're doing an amazing job, Marcia, and to get a review like that from someone that isn't dyslexic, I think is, surely that's kind of everything.
Warms my heart. It warms my heart because, who thought this girl from Hackney to write a book who was told they're never going to academically achieve? And that's the thing, anything's possible.
One GCSE published author.
With a collection of 25 voices, may I say, who helped that journey and believed in the vision. And so you've got to bring people on board, and you've got to support and have collective voices. And that's what I feel in this book I've did. It wasn't about me, it was about our voices, and being a collective is stronger.
I mean, the book is certainly about representation and actually going deeper than just showing somebody's face and what they look like. This is about giving a platform to 25 people to tell their story and share their voice. And I think that's really powerful. So, Marcia, we asked you to bring something to put on our shelf. I know you've brought your book along.
I have indeed.
I mean, it is very in keeping with what you are wearing.
Why not? Because I think colours are important, and I feel it sets off vibrations as well. When I wear certain colours, it gives a feel and a vibration, and I feel it, and I feel people feeling it too. And I'm like, okay.
It's a bold title.
Yeah.
Brilliantly looking book. Black, Brilliant and Dyslexic. Thank you so much, Marcia.
You're most welcome.
I've learned a lot listening to you. And so I'm really, really grateful, Marcia, for giving us your time and your voice and your experience. Yeah, it means a lot. And I know it'll resonate with lots of people listening and watching.
Thank you for having me.